This conference will now be recorded.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's live webinar. I'm very glad you can take time out of your schedule to join us as we have a really fun event for you tonight. And we're just going to check all of our equipment, make sure all of our stuff is working. If you can hear me in the audience, if you could plug into the chat box that you can hear me, that would be wonderful. If you could just plug into the chat box, if you can hear us okay. And awesome, thank you so much, and welcome to tonight's live webinar for relationship reconstruction. I'm one half of the Twin Souls, Brian Gangle, and I'm here with my partner, Lori McNeil.
And I'm the other half.
And tonight we're actually broadcasting from inside the hot tub, actually, but we have our clothes on. But we thought it'd be kind of a fun thing to do tonight, so we're actually broadcasting from inside a hot tub. Kind of a lot of fun, as you never know where the Twin Souls are going to be broadcasting next. And tonight we have a great one for you tonight on why we need relationships, and it's a lot of fun. Before we dive into it, we're going to start with our calendar of events for 2021 as we're coming up near the horn here. And first, as an exciting announcement, is that we have a brand new podcast now available. And you see the podcast link, as we now have 2 newsletters for you, one dedicated to Twin Souls, with all the information about the webinars that we do and the recordings in case you miss it, and the rebroadcast, and also links to our brand new podcast, which is called Lightning Strikes Twice. And it is a ton of fun to do. We have a whole bunch of episodes in the can ready to release to you. And so stay tuned. As soon as a new episode drops, you'll find it on our social media pages. You'll find it in our newsletters and a whole bunch of other places for our brand new podcast, Lightning Strikes Twice by Twin Souls on Fire. And if you want to listen to it at any time tonight after tonight's live broadcast, you can go to Spreaker and just key into the search menu, Lightning Strikes Twice or Twin Souls on Fire, and it will take you right to the first episode. And it was an absolute blast. You're going to love it. Great music, great intro, great information for you. You're going to absolutely love our brand new podcast. And of course, Twin Souls on Fire, our live event coming up November 26th, 27th. Tickets are on sale, and we have 2 tickets for you. One is called Twin Souls on Fire Live, Twin Souls on Fire Virtual, if you want to join us virtually. And this is going to be a ton of fun. The first day is going to be dedicated to finding your twin soul and teaching you the pathway to finding your twin soul. And the second day dedicated to relationship reconstruction work, which is what tonight is all about. And we're going to be, of course, in Toronto, Markham, Canada on the 26th, 27th. We will be in Orlando, Florida next, in Boise, Idaho. Honolulu is our planned stop. And then, of course, we're going to be in Ixtapa, Mexico. And so we'll be going around the world with the Twin Souls live experience. And of course, if you go to our brand new landing page, which is twinsouls.live, we have a whole bunch of interactive things for you, a really cool landing page that Lori and her constructive team put together. A ton of fun. You're going to love it, including taking the Evaluate Your Mate quiz. You're going to love that. And of course, at Twin Souls Live, the experience will teach you how to unlock your superpowers, find out why relationships fail to ignite in the first place, and of course, 2 bonus workshops, the Life Path Directive by myself, and of course, Building Better Connections, which Lori is an expert at communication, and that's all part of the live experience. And tonight, it's all about relationships and why do we need them? A very, very indeed appropriate subject for tonight. And so with this, Lori and myself are going to have 7 different talking points, and we'll discuss these talking points together, and we'll give you our insights and our pool of knowledge that we have, including our professional experience and, of course, our personal experiences on relationships and why do we need them. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. So number 1 is we need relationships so that we are not alone. Why healthy relationships are so important is because as humans, the relationship we form with other people, they are vital to our mental and emotional well-being, and even in many cases, our own survival. Human beings have an innate, inherited desire to be close to other people, to connect and build relationships. We need each other for many things, including caring, tenderness, hugs, touch, emotional support, connection, and sharing love. Lori, you want to take the horn on this one?
We were created to be very relational people. But I think one of the key things here is that we were created to not be alone. We were created to be in community. But I think it makes a difference when you're in community with the right person and with the right people. So whether it's in your personal relationship or whether it's in business relationships, it makes a big difference whether or not you're around positive people with positive energy or negative people with negative energy. And when you're with your twin soul, it's so obvious when you're with the right people and with the right energy. And I talked to so many people who are frustrated because they either are not aligned with the right clients, or they have different, relationship issues with their siblings or their parents or friends, different clients. So it's how you basically align yourself in your life with all different kinds of people that are the right energy and the right kinds of people. So don't necessarily gravitate to people just for the sake of not being alone, because even though we were created to be relational, it makes a difference when you think, oh, I'll just go hang out with those people when they might not be the right people for you, or I might date that person just for something to do because you don't want to be by yourself. So you want to make sure that you strike that right balance. And when you're definitely with the right people, it makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. And if you're not with your twin soul, well, then you definitely want to find your twin soul. But for me, it's about understanding that you're actually never alone. That's one of the reasons why we need relationships in the first place, is we don't want to be alone. It's an inherent right of human beings. But it's a big difference between being alone, being afraid to be alone, and loneliness. And for me, I've never been afraid to be alone, but I really do not enjoy the feeling of loneliness. Not being alone, because I'm always with God, I'm always with friends, I'm always with family, they're always nearby. And in our interconnected telecommunication skills and advanced technologies that we have today, you really are never alone. Me and Lori, we had met in a virtual space. If this was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, this would have been very, very difficult. But with modern technology, we were never alone because we could connect in so many different ways. In email, in text, in video, in chatting, on the phone. There was so many different ways that we could communicate, so we were never, ever really alone at any one moment. And that's the thing, it's about taking inventory of what is really there in front of you. So relationships provide a lot of different things for us. They provide the ability for us to be connected. And with a world that we have today, we are always constantly connected in many ways. But you have to take a physical inventory of the ways that you can be connected with the people around you if you want to understand the power and the majesty of what relationships can actually bring to you. So for me, it's always been about, number 1, taking inventory. Number 2, taking inventory and stock of all the people that are all around you all the time. And number 3, understanding all of the possible connections using technology in so many different ways so that we can be connected to everyone all around us all the time. There is no actual need to ever be lonely. But one of the reasons we get into relationships, especially intimate relationships, is to avoid a lot of different issues that can creep in, like loneliness. To me personally, loneliness is something I find it very unsavory, and I find it very difficult to deal with. But it's not a big difference between loneliness and being alone. They are two very, very different things. Let's take a look at what we have next here. So let's bring back into our screen here, and let's get back into it. Let's go from the current slide here. So that's not being alone. Number two tonight is a sense of satisfaction. So extensive evidence shows that having good quality relationships can help us to live longer and happier lives with fewer mental health issues. Having close, keyword, positive relationships can give us purpose and a sense of belonging. Commitment is enhanced when individuals experience relationship satisfaction and is increased when individuals invest important or numerous resources within the relationship. And this leads into the quality of communication between two people in a relationship. So, Laura, do you want to take this one on sense of satisfaction?
There's so much data and so much research around whether or not someone has a full sense of satisfaction and fullness in their life, whether they live their life completely alone, whether or not they share that with somebody else, because there's so many different benefits to how you feel about yourself, how accomplished you feel, your self-esteem, all these different things in your life, and how you share those experiences with someone else, the pride that you feel. The list of benefits really just goes on and on with the sense of satisfaction that you feel in your life overall when you're with when you surround yourself with the right people, and definitely when your partner is the right person. And in our case, we're the same person. So it makes a huge, huge difference. And there's all these factors that we're going to be talking about tonight, whereas like we were saying, there's a difference between being alone and feeling lonely. And a lot of people, when they live their life by themselves, they definitely have a lot of loneliness that they feel, even if they are connected, because there's, at the end of the day, you know, they might be watching a movie by themselves and they wish that they were sharing that with someone else. So there's a lot of different satisfaction that you would feel in your life, that you would feel in your work, that you would feel like you're living your sense of purpose, all these different benefits that come into play when you're actually in relationship with someone, and not only just with someone, but with the right someone.
And I agree, there's a lot to be said for that. And at the same time, I look at always things from maybe a different perspective, and that is a sense of satisfaction when you're in a relationship. And for me, the sense of satisfaction is about sharing and being in service. So let me talk about satisfaction in terms of sharing first. And for me, there's a lot of things to share in a relationship that bring me personal satisfaction, like sharing my home and sharing my puppy dog and sharing my wealth and giving back to community and sharing things like food and making beautiful food for you and making a beautiful meal for you. And then in reverse, what does Lori share with me? Well, she shares an incredible pool of knowledge. She shares things like teaching me about clothes and style. As as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, she's former Miss Oregon. And being on the runway and being a model, she has an incredible understanding of everything, from not just the walk and shoes and clothing. And I learn all these things, and it brings her a sense of satisfaction for sharing it with me. We were talking the other day, and I was curious about something. This gives you an idea of the kind of thing that when you share a tidbit of knowledge that's really cool, really secretive, and then you share it with someone else, it does bring you a sense of satisfaction. And I was wondering, when they're on the runway, how did they change their shoes so quickly? And Laura was saying, well, we actually have a special buckle that just unclasps really fast, and it's sort of like a little U-hook, and you won't see this, and you wouldn't know this watching a model on runway. You wouldn't notice but she was showing me on a pair of shoes and how it actually works, and I was absolutely just blown away by this magic. But sharing that secret with me brought her a sense of satisfaction, and I learned a lot of new things. So for me, let's talk about it now from a sense of sharing. And you know that I love to prepare beautiful food. I'm a professional chef by trade and training, and to prepare a beautiful meal with you brings me an amazing sense of satisfaction. And sharing my wealth, what I've accumulated in my life, I feel very, very blessed that God has given me and provided so much for me. And to share what I have with you and with all my friends and my family, for me, brings me an amazing sense of satisfaction. That's the sharing part of a relationship. But then there's the service part of a relationship. And being in service, and being service to God and country, and being service to your neighbors and to community and to friends and family, and being in service and doing volunteer things also brings an amazing sense of satisfaction in any relationship. Today we were talking with a pastor at church, and he was talking about, that he's looking to grow his congregation. And me and Lori are saying, well, we'll meet with you next week to discuss what we know about marketing and our senses of business so that we can help to grow your congregation. And one of the most amazing things about this, what it did is it brought us an amazing sense of satisfaction in that relationship. So this is what we're talking about in the relationship. That is, for me, it's about service and about sharing. And those two things, they really do go hand in hand, and they go hand in glove together. And that's what brings the satisfaction component in any relationship, I think, today. Okay, let's bring back our screen here and let's move on to the next one. And so what we had here was sense of satisfaction. Next is going to be a feeling to feel secure. So one of the reasons why we need relationships is to feel secure. So our relationships are far from boring when we feel safe. Emotional safety enables us the freedom to collaborate, dream, be wildly creative, to share bold ideas, feel increased compassion, and of course, express ourselves freely with one another. So to feel secure is definitely an important part of every relationship, and it's one of the reasons why we need relationships. Lori, why don't you take that one?
Yeah. So I've had lots of different kinds of relationships in my past, and some of them I have not always felt secure. In fact, in some of them I haven't felt secure at all. And it makes a really, really big difference when you have that, when you have security in a relationship and you feel like you are free to even communicate who you are and your true authentic self and your feelings or your true opinions about something, versus if you're not in relationship with the right person who more or less doesn't get you, doesn't care, isn't in tune, they're not going to give you that sense of time, that sense of security, that sense of care. They're not going to listen, all those different things that really create an environment where you don't feel safe, where you don't feel secure. And Brian and I have an amazing sense of security with each other, and we definitely create that environment, and I think are very aware of the environment that we create every day when we're sharing with each other and we're communicating things that are important to us, or just things that are big and small and throughout the day. We don't minimize each other's opinions, we don't minimize each other's feelings, and we truly accept each other fully for who we are. And it makes such a big difference when you are in a relationship, an intimate relationship with the right person that actually creates that sense of security. And when it's reciprocal, that's amazing. That's magic right there, because it's not just up to one person to create the secure, safe environment. It really is up to both people to reciprocate that and create that for each other and create that safe space so that you do feel more free to create and to grow and to nurture each other and to live life in the fullest, the way that it's meant to be lived.
And it really is, it's about creating that safe environment. And that safe environment is created, as we talked about in the first episode of Relationship Reconstruction. It's about soft words, kind words, and it's about active listening. So first, let's talk about soft words. Whenever Lori's going to be sharing an idea with me, no matter what that idea is, if I am coming across critical, and it's very easy for my voice, timbre of my voice, to be misconstrued as being over dominating or being critical. But she has learned, because she is me, she has the same brain as me, she has learned and knows innately that what the timbre of my voice is actually saying, and it's what the words are. So she knows that I am being soft in what I'm saying to her. But for those of you who your partner doesn't understand the tone of your voice, your partner may be talking to you, and just because their timbre of their voice or the sound of their voice or the boisterousness of their voice comes across as being over dominating or critical, that may not actually be their true intention. It just may be that is the way they talk and communicate. You need to express that to your partner so your partner actually understands that. The second is kindness, and it's the type of words that you use. So when Laura's sharing an idea for me, I use the word okay a lot. And I hear what she is saying, and I always receive that information with okay, I get it, yes, okay. I'm acknowledging that I am not only receiving the information, but I am understanding that information. And in doing so, I am creating that safe environment for her to continue the next time to share that information. Because if I don't acknowledge, if I didn't say, okay, I understand, I hear what you're saying, and then I repeat it back to her so that she says, I acknowledge, you have acknowledged what I have said, you understood what I said, that's all I can ask for. If I didn't do that, the next time she'll go, you know what, I'm not sure I want to share it with you, Brian. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to receive it. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to understand it. I'm not actually sure if you're going to be actually able to hear it. Another part of feeling secure when it comes to why we need relationships, one of the things that makes it feel secure is to say that I not only understand it, but I am making solid eye contact, and that I've eliminated the things like this where I'm going, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, So if I am eliminating all the things like talking on the cell phone, I'll turn the radio deliberately down, and I'll actively listen, and I'll actually make eye contact. And that is setting up that sense of security for her to know that the next time she's going to share some information with me, that I am going to make it a top priority and make it important. These are all small things that create that safe environment. So the next time she has something important to share, whether it be something sensitive, something soft, something that's just in her heart, her heart's and purpose, she'll share it with me because she knows she feels secure in doing so. And those are the things that set it up, the stage for the next time. It's what you do in this situation and this circumstances at this point in time that sets the stage for the next time. So it's not about, well, I'll ignore you this time and I'll listen next time. It's about actively listening, paying attention, soft words, kind words to set the stage so they feel secure to share with you ongoing. I believe that that's really the key here.
And I think to not assume and not prejudge whether or not you think it's important.
Exactly.
Right? Because if it's important enough to them to say it, then it's important, and you should care about what they care about. So to not prejudge the fact that it's going to be minimized, really, by not listening.
And number 4 is to feel a sense of accomplishment. It's one of the reasons why we need relationships. So gaining a sense of accomplishment and feeling the work that you've done to help people feel progressing in their work. When you feel a sense of accomplishment, you naturally become more engaged in your work and more motivated to maintain and improve good work. Contributing to a worthy cause, and it brings a huge sense of personal achievement. Even activities that you might not consider pleasant, such as working in a soup kitchen on a hot day, have been shown to provide a great sense of satisfaction. This is all part of a feeling of a sense of accomplishment when you're in a relationship. This is very, very high-minded stuff, Lori. What do you think about this?
I know for me personally, I feel a huge sense of accomplishment when I have someone to share it with. But this is the interesting thing. When you have someone in your life, they don't necessarily have to be in the soup kitchen at that moment with you. They could be, or you could just have that sense of support, right? And overall relationship and overall just overall security and everything that we're talking about in your life. So you have that special person in your life and you feel a sense of accomplishment no matter what you're doing. Now, if you're doing it together, I have experienced that it's just exponentially like magnitude, right? It's just multiplied when you're doing it together because you're doing it together, you're sharing in that moment, you're building that memory, and you literally could be like stranded somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and it's going to be an amazing memory if you choose for it to be, and you're going to have a sense of accomplishment and put two heads together with figuring out how to problem solve whatever it is that's going on. Or when you're even having a bad day, or you think that it's maybe something that is maybe not very fun, it's so much more gratifying when you're actually with someone and when you have that person in your life that you feel supports you and is sharing in your life, whether they're physically with you in that moment or not.
And so a sense of accomplishment comes in many different forms. And one of them for me is, as I said before, I alluded to, is being in service. And being in service, especially when you're as a couple and you're going to be in service together, that brings an enormous sense of satisfaction. And that's one of the reasons why we need relationships. A lot of times for me, I was operating as a solo act, and that's great. It does bring you a great sense of accomplishment. But when you do it as a couple, and it doesn't matter what the couple is made of or what the makeup is, When you do it as a couple, it's literally the sense of accomplishment is amplified to the highest magnitude. For me, I have been doing for years what's called a Tuesday ritual, and and I do it to different extents. And when I do it together with Lori, I just feel an enormous sense of accomplishment. We feel that a sense of accomplishment together. The Tuesday ritual, for those of you who don't know, my friend Roger, who was one of my mentors, I worked for his company, he was in the gift industry. And one day I was working in their trade show department before I went into marketing services and then working full blown in marketing in their company. One day Roger had invited me out of the office, out of the blue, and we got in his Jaguar and we went driving around, and he goes, "It's Tuesday ritual, you coming with me, Brian?" And I go, "Shouldn't I be working? Do I have to punch out?" He goes, he said, "My dad owns the company, come with me." So we get in his Jag and we drive to a plaza. And then he pops the hood and he goes, "There's a bag of clothing in the back. I need you to just throw it into the Goodwill bin." So I went out, hopped out, grabbed the bag. It's full of old clothes, and I put it in the Goodwill bin. Then we drive to the other end of the plaza, and he goes to me. He says, "Wait here for a minute. I just got to go in there into this place. I just got to talk to the guy there for a minute, and then we can get on with our trip." And I go, "Okay." So you know me, I'm super nosy. So I get out of the car and I went over to the store to see what he was. He was in the Goodwill office, and Roger was in there, and he was writing a check. And he handed the guy a check, and I'm looking through the window, and then Roger comes out the door and he goes, "I told you to stay in the car." And he goes, "I was nosy. I'm curious what you're doing." He goes, "Get in the car. We're heading over to the plaza. We're going to go to drive to the other end of the plaza. There's a no frills." We get in no frills. He says, "Get a cart." I get a cart, and we start going down the aisle. This is a guy who's a multi-millionaire. And I'm going, what is he doing? Putting cans of no-name tuna, no-name pasta, no-name soup. And he's throwing cans and he's filling the thing right up. And he goes, "Dig in." "What are we doing buying all this stuff, Roger?" And he goes, "Just don't ask questions." He says, "You'll get the message." We get to the end. He pays for it all. We go to the food box and he drops it all into the food box. And we literally fill the food box full of stuff. You get the Jag. We drive back to the office. I go, "What happened, Raj?" And he goes, "That's it. Tuesday ritual's over." And for him, doesn't matter. Oops. Let me just grab the thing here. Hold on a second here. We've lost our screen. Just give me a second here. We've lost our screen for a moment. And there we go. And I'm just going to drop back at the screen for just a quick second. There we go. The message was that this is about being in service. And his idea was in the relationship was to share with me a sense of accomplishment, that no matter how successful you are, that the accomplishment, the real accomplishment in life is about being in service. And he wanted to share that with me in this relationship that we had. And I carry that forward as a Tuesday ritual every time. Me and Lori went out when we were down here in Florida. One of our first times we went to one of the local grocery stores, and they didn't have a food box. So what we did is we bought, I think it was $5 or $10 coupons. And I think we bought 100 gift cards. I think we buy, 20 of them or something. Mm-hmm. And then we played Santa Claus and we went around the store and we handed them out to people and said, "It's Tuesday ritual. Have a beautiful day." And we handed them a coupon. For some people, they're going, "Oh, no, I don't want it." And then other people are going, "Wow, God bless you. Thank you." Yeah. To just bring a smile to people's lives. And that's part of the sense of accomplishment. And to us, we felt the amplified, magnified sense of accomplishment in relationship in doing so. And it doesn't matter how big or how small your donation is, but being in service brought us this incredible sense of accomplishment. And when you do it as a couple, it's literally amplified and magnified beyond your wildest dreams.
Well, and that's a really good example, if I can add that really quickly. So I have been in service my whole life with, I have a personal goal of volunteering in community service projects for over 500 hours a year. And I've been doing that for a couple of decades. But what was interesting about what we did is that I've actually been a solo act in a lot of different ways. And in my service, I've done that pretty much all on my own. I've never been with a partner that actually wanted to serve with me. So when we did that as our first Tuesday ritual, it was amazing and yet kind of almost different for me to be doing it with somebody. But as we did it, it was amazing. It was our first time doing that together. And we felt a huge sense of accomplishment in a different way, I think, for both of us doing it together. And so much more gratifying, I think, than we even could have imagined because of the experiences that we were having, making people so happy, and we're serving that and we're doing that together, and it was awesome. So it doesn't matter if you've done that kind of thing on your own. It's like what we're saying, everything is magnified exponentially when you do it together as a couple.
Absolutely. And when we see you starting to type some questions in the chat box, and I promise we'll get to all the questions when we wrap up, and we're about 3/4 through, so we'll definitely get to all of your questions. One of the things, Lori, you were talking when we were developing our relationship in the very beginning. We were asking me, how many hours do I spend a year in volunteering? And you were saying you did 500 hours a week volunteering, and you won a presidential award for volunteering. And I mean, I was absolutely just blown away that I had known somebody and I was making a relationship with someone who also understood the power of this sense of accomplishment by being in service. And so I always applaud you for being in service to such a magnification, such a degree, as it sets an incredible example for everybody, every citizen in this world. So I always acknowledge that and I admire that in you greatly. Let's move on here. The next one is also extremely important here, number 5 out of 7, which is to reinforce self-esteem. That's one of the most important reasons why we're in a relationship. Because if self-esteem and good social relationships mutually reinforce each other, a virtuous cycle will ensure and continue. You feel good about yourself, and that improves your chances of having a warm and satisfying friendships. And those fulfilling friendships, in turn, make you feel even better about yourself, reinforcing self-esteem. Research has well established the link between good esteem and relationship satisfaction. Self-esteem not only affects how we think about ourselves, but also how much love we're able to receive and how we treat others, especially in intimate relationships. What about reinforcing self-esteem as an important component of a relationship, Lori?
So important. We live in such a, should I say, almost selfish society, right? There's people, it's take more than give most of the time. And a lot of times that's even just in the way that we build relationships and we maintain relationships. It's naturally, I think people are, what can I get out of the relationship? What can you do for me? And I think that when we're with so many different types of people that have the me mentality, then pretty soon we kind of start to feel like, well, gosh, do I have any value? And sometimes it's interesting how we can internalize what's said and then what's not said. And when you're with the right people in your life, they will naturally want to build you up. They will naturally want to compliment you. They'll naturally see your value. They'll naturally, want to acknowledge how amazing you are as a person, your skill set, everything in between. And you are so amazing at that. You are so good at building me up and acknowledging, who I am and my skills and whatnot. And then in turn, it actually does just that. I actually want to love you more. So it's amazing how that, again, just becomes so natural and reciprocal when you're with the right person. And then you begin to build this healthier and healthier relationship to where it's not a tug and pull, right? It's not just one person building up one of the partners and the other one just being the taker. So when you're with the right person, you're both building each other up, and it's very smooth and it's very natural. And this is friendships, and this is, familial relationships, and this is, clients and customers, but it makes a really big difference. Otherwise, and I'm sure we've all experienced this, it's super draining. It's super, super draining when you're with someone that's a take person, and you feel like you are the one building them up and they're not giving anything in return. That's not a healthy relationship. That's completely toxic and draining. And so again, Brian and I are just very, very aware of how we try to build each other up and build self-esteem in each other.
Well, to me, I think self-esteem and mentorship go hand in hand. And we talk about this as the second part of the evaluation process, which we teach in depth at the live event, which is taking place at the end of November. And we'll be talking about that in much more detail in terms of friendship, mentorship, spirituality, life partnering, and romance. And And at our first podcast there is actually, we talk about the, is it the first or second podcast? I think the second podcast is the Romance Toolbox.
Yes.
And that pod will be released this coming week. So you'll get that one. We just dropped that one. We're ready to release it, called the first parts of the Romance Toolbox. You're going to love that pod, by the way.
Super fun.
It's a lot of fun. You're going to really enjoy it. But mentorship is key when it comes to the self-esteem. And mentorship for me is about acknowledging and admiring all the amazing things that you've accomplished and that you do in life. And those are the things that you teach me and that I admire and acknowledge, because it enhances my well-being and brings up my self-esteem. And by admiring it to you, being my mentor, it raises up your self-esteem. I'm actually reinforcing your self-esteem. That mentorship student relationship is critical in any relationship. But for the mentorship and the self-esteem, it's about looking up to the person, looking up to your partner, never, ever looking down. It's okay to always look across, like you and I have such amazing skill sets that we work with, an incredible toolbox that we have. And often we will look across at each other equally and acknowledge each other. But it's when you share your incredible wealth of knowledge, and you have, I don't know how many PhDs and masters, I mean, you're incredibly educated. I often look up to you. In fact, when I first met you in the virtual world, Lori, I thought you were too high end for me. I thought, and it's okay to acknowledge that somebody is in a different wheelhouse and in a different snack bracket. And I was always, and even to this day, I still look up to you. And it's that looking up to you that creates and reinforces your self-esteem. And by being a little bit more humble and coming from a little bit more grace and gratitude from my end, it builds up my self-esteem. And you have always acknowledged that whenever I compliment you on your pool of knowledge or what you do or your accomplishments. And it reciprocates, as she thought I was so high end, and I'm thinking I'm just an average guy here, and she's thinking I'm so high end, but she is acknowledging and admiring all the things that I am teaching her, and in exchange, it's building up my self-esteem, and then it reinforces hers. And that mentorship recycling back and forth, I think, is what creates self-esteem within any relationship. Okay, let's jump into the next one. And so next we have on our hit list here is number 6 of 7, which is financial benefit. So this is very important because it's one of the reasons why we have relationships in a lot of cases. And there's a lot of different aspects to this. So I'm just going to cover a little bit. One is you can split the expenses, both big and small. Obviously, you can save more money. You know, we talk about the magic propeller, and the 2 in the boat goes 1,000 times faster. You can definitely, if you're going on a lot of dates and you're still dating and you haven't found your soul twin yet, and you're going to have to go through a mine, a lot of coal to find that diamond, well, then you're going to be lowering your cost for every date over time. Marriage can obviously save you money because you're pooling resources, living under the same roof, and you can be financially accountable partners and partnership. So these are all parts of the financial benefits of why we would get into relationships in the first place. You take it away on this one.
So many different financial benefits. And like everything that we've been talking about on the list, when you're with the wrong person, it can financially drain you. And I've had that experience, and I'm sure many of you listening and watching this tonight have had different types of experiences where you feel like you are always the one, you know, picking up the tab, or the one that's kept thinking about the financial, you know, responsible thing to do or whatnot. And when you're with a healthy person that's of like-mindedness, and we're both financially savvy and savers, and we don't like debt, and you know, all those things, we're a lot on the same page. So even this morning, actually, when we were talking about different Uber rides to get places, I said, no, let's not spend that much money. Let's not go to this particular place because that Uber costs more. So it's all about, you know, being smart and making good financial choices and being on the same page with the choices that you make, and moving forward and what that looks like. Because I'm sure everybody has some experience when you're not financially on the same page with someone in your life, whether that's an intimate partner or just someone that you know in your life. It makes a really, really big difference. So just make sure that you are consciously aware of all of the financial benefits involved in that, and don't get yourself wrapped up in the spiral of not being with the right person.
But at the end of the day, money is not the only currency, Laurie. And in my when I was married, my ex-wife was very, very smart, very, very shrewd. And one of the things that she taught me was that money is not the only currency, Brian. What she taught me was that education actually is the real currency. And this is something that I have not experienced until you came along into my life, because you're extremely and exquisitely high educated. And one of the things is, for me, is in my lifetime, I always looked at education, higher education, as, oh, it's kind of a waste of time, and I'm highly educated as well, but I didn't understand the organized education on how important and how valuable it can actually be. Your higher education, you had told me you had a CV that was 46 pages long. I mean, my CV is 3, and I'm pretty well accomplished. Her CV is 46 pages. But the currency of that in a relationship is that that allows you in a split second that you could get hired anywhere in just about any industry in a split second. Well, that currency is exquisitely valuable in a relationship. And what that's taught me and reinforced again is that education is the ultimate form of currency. And so understanding why we get into relationships, if you get into a relationship and the other person wants to continue their education cycle, understand that maybe there's a short-term financial drain or a short-term financial loss, but in the long run, you are always going to be much further ahead. And so one of the reasons we get into relationships is for financial stability. You can't get any more stable than including the coefficient of education as being one of the currencies in the financial component of a relationship. It is very, very powerful indeed. And that's a very, very powerful lesson that I had to learn. There's other currencies in a relationship. Children are an incredible currency in a relationship. So when you get into a relationship and your partner has children already, and you're joining in with that, well, children bring an incredible amount of joy, an unbelievable sense of satisfaction. And I've often said that, they'll say, well, where's the treasure? The treasure is in the children. The children are the ultimate treasure. And that is another important part of a relationship, which brings value to a relationship. Like you can't put a price tag on it. This is another form of reason why we get into relationships. So money is not the only currency to measure a relationship upon. Same thing with things like clothes. I have a pretty extensive wardrobe. Laurie has an unbelievable wardrobe, but because we're the same size, a lot of your clothes have fit in, and I've suddenly increased my wardrobe. And I know it sounds funny, but again, money is not the only currency in any relationship. And that's always a good way to cap off that particular subject. Okay, let's continue on with the last one here, reasons why we get into a relationship, and that is to share experiences. It's an important step in building our resilience against negativity, is a bank of positive experiences that remind us of the possibility and opportunity that is always around us. Meaningful relationships offer the opportunity for regular moments of joy, pleasure, fun, and meaningful content. I'll add the word meaningful in there, meaningful content. So what do you think about one of the reasons to get into a relationship is to share the experience?
I love the fact that you and I share so many experiences every single day. We're the type of couple that stops along the sidewalk mid-sentence just to admire flowers. So because we don't take anything for granted. We love sharing all kinds of experiences, big and small, but you and I see the value in the small and really how big that really is in the whole big picture. It's not just about necessarily big trips or certain occasions. We actually have a life that we've created of different experiences that are just all kinds of small moments that are really big deal to us. It makes a big difference when you can share experiences and share life with somebody who also appreciates those experiences. And I think to be in the mindset of appreciating what's around you all the time and not just go, got to do this, got to get to the next thing on the list, it makes life so much fuller, so much richer. And even though I've traveled the world by myself, it's been so much more meaningful to actually share all kinds of experiences as a couple, because we've been able to live life in a completely different way together. Than you've traveled by yourself a lot, I've traveled by myself a lot, but it's so much more fun when you actually, instead of telling someone, trying to recall something that you saw or recall something that you experienced, we're in that moment together and we're experiencing it together. And although we definitely kind of rehash the experience and we talk about it, you don't have to try to paint that picture for someone who's not with you, because they also saw the colors and smelled the same smells, and it just makes all the difference in the world. And so it makes relationships so much more fun, so much more richer.
And really to share the experience, it's sharing experiences that are big and sharing experiences that are small, but it's also about cataloging and inventorying all of these experiences. You never want to forget all the amazing experiences that you have, big and small. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to the quality of the sharing experience. You and I often stop and we see the same things at the same time. It's about stopping, thinking, breathing, and being in the moment. And we talked about before, I talked about the different modes of communication, and one of them is the speed at which we receive information. And a lot of us are fast, 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 go, go, go. Others are slow, and some are just at the pace of life. And it's when you take that pace of life together that you actually can catalog and inventory that experience. And when you do, you realize you have a huge compendium of experiences together. One of the reasons why people get into relationships is they want to see things through the same eyes, but yet from a different perspective. And it's in the admiring and the acknowledgement of, the way you see something and the way that I see something, and sharing it. That is the entire experience. And when you catalog it and you inventory that experience, suddenly you realize, oh my gosh, Lori, we have seen 1,000 campaigns together. And isn't it incredible? You've often said to me, it feels like in just the last few months, we've created a lifetime of memories. And for others, they go through the time continuum and they go, how come we haven't had a whole lot of experiences? Because you haven't taken the time to be in the moment, to catalog and inventory that individual experience, whether it's something minute or something huge. And when you take the time to actually catalog it and inventory, you realize what an enormous compendium of experiences you've actually had together. Life is an amazing thing. They say, so the slogan is, life is meant to be experienced. Well, that's one of the reasons we get into a relationship, is to experience it. And what does experience mean? It means slowing down and using all of your senses, but most importantly, not forgetting it. It's one of the reasons we have smartphones today, is we take photo. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook with it, and we're sharing with the whole world. But the most important part is, before you decide to push that button share, have you shared the experience with yourself? Have you actually shared the experience with your partner? Did you say to them, wow, wasn't that a beautiful moment we just shared together? So before you decide to share it with the rest of the world, have you shared it with your partner? Have you actually shared it with yourself? And I think that's a wonderful way to end that particular segment. So let's bring our screen back up here. And then, of course, there's a lot of other things. And one of the bonus ones is, so one of the reasons we get into relationships is support during hard times. And boy, having a strong supportive relationship is known to provide emotional help during stressful times, reduce stress, increase the lifespan, and give greater levels of happiness. It's important to have a number of people in an individual's life that can give you support. And I don't think this can be more emphasized in the COVID era that we're currently living in, and making sure that not only our friends, our neighbors, and our loved ones, but for those of you in the healthcare industry, as I am, for your patients, clients, and customers, to provide support in those relationships. Remember, every single person you come across is a relationship of a sort, and to provide support for them and take that moment to listen to someone who's going through a hard time, because at this time in the human world and human species, we need each other in the relationship more than ever before. What do you think?
I just think about all of the times when I'll just say, I'm calling you because I just need to hear your voice. So I may be having a stressful situation or a day or whatever, and just being in your energy over the phone, even if we can't be together in the same physical space, makes a huge difference. So when you're going through different hard times, when you're in a relationship with somebody that that has all these qualities that we're talking about, that's a good, healthy relationship, it makes all the difference in the world when you have that strong support from your partner who just, if anything, maybe doesn't solve the problem, but just holds the space and respects the fact that you just need to be acknowledged and that you need to be heard and that maybe you need to be, vent or whatever, or to brainstorm. Two heads are better than one, so to brainstorm maybe how to solve the problem. But it makes all the difference in the world when I can just pick up the phone and say, I just need to hear your voice. I just need to talk to you for a minute. And I know that we've actually done that for each other.
We've done that for each other several times. And I'll just expand on that and say that I think the whole world needs us. I have an inner circle of around 200 that are pretty close to me that I try to stay in communication with them at least once a month. I have a closer inner circle of around 50 to 75 that I'm in communication with just about every single week. And then there's several thousands on my databases that I'm in contact with at least once every 3 months. I reach out to them to make contact with them. And I think I advise and I would recommend to everybody, figure out your inner circle, your outer circle, and your most outer circle, and make sure you take time to spend with them, no matter what it is, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or half an hour, whatever it is, to give them some support during these exquisitely hard times. You will be amazed what an amazing dividend it will pay later on in life for doing this incredible service, because you will not believe how many people out there would love to hear just a voice or someone to say, hey, I'm there for you. I'm here to listen. How's it going? How are you feeling? It's very important in these huge, stressful times. And lastly is tribal instinct. Everyone needs a tribe in their life to be truly happy and satisfied with their existence. And when I say the word tribe, I'm simply referring to a close-knit group of people that accept one another, support each other, and have each other's backs during these times of stress when it's in need or in weakness. And you could just as easily call it a community or a family or a close-knit group of friends. But I personally like the word tribe because it sounds natural and instinctual. And our need to belong to a group is natural and instinctual. And that's why tribal instinct is one of the main reasons, one of the key reasons why we get into relationships in the first place. And I'll say for me, in my organization, the World Organization of Natural Medicine, and I see Dr. Grant is on the call, and he's one of our distinguished professors in our organization and a good friend. And, and we often say that tribe sharing among us as practitioners is one of the ways that we are going to grow together and really spread our message of natural, traditional, alternative, and eclectic health with everyone then in our world. But this is not going to happen by simply getting the megaphone and yelling out to our tribe one at a time. It's about as a group effort. And when we share our tribes, suddenly the message is amplified and magnified to not just a few thousand, but tens of thousands, and in some cases even millions. But that tribal instinct is universal, I think, for all human beings. What do you think about tribal instinct?
Absolutely. And even though the last couple of years our world has experienced, some hard times for sure, there's still, with the amazing advancement of technology, ways that you can still connect with people. There's still ways that you can create that tribe, that family, that connectedness using video, using Facebook groups, using whatever that looks like, getting on the phone, getting on FaceTime, whatever that is. There's still things that you can do to stay connected to people and to create that sense of family and that sense of community. You don't have to live life alone. You don't have to be a lonely entrepreneur or someone lonely in business, because we hear that a lot. And especially the last couple of years, there's a lot of people that are just struggling in all kinds of different ways. Maybe they haven't talked to their family in a long time, or maybe they are trying to shift gears in their career or whatever. And so there are things that you can do to be proactive to still stay connected to your tribe. It is super important.
That's a wonderful way to end. And of course, a lot more to be discussed at the live event, Twin Souls on Fire, the live experience. And we'll share a lot more about this at our live event. So we're going to have our Q&A. We're just in a few moments here as we're going to wrap up. And I'm just going to remind you of our brand new podcast, Twin Souls on Fire, Lightning Strikes Twice. And the first episode is out. You can find it on Spreaker. It's really quite amazing. And then if you want to get tickets to Twin Souls on Fire, the live experience, then definitely slide over to Eventbrite. There is a secret discount for priority seating, and that is my name, Brian, at checkout, or Lori's first name, Lori, at checkout. And that'll save you a handsome $175 off either the virtual ticket or the live in-person ticket for Twin Souls on Fire, the experience on November 27th, 28th, and live at Markham in Toronto, Canada. And I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And Lori, do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
We love you, and we want the best relationships for you.
Relationship reconstruction, it's the only way to go. We love you all. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your busy Sunday schedules. And as you head into the week, have yourself a blessed week. We love you all, and good night.